Wanderers Show.
Good evening and welcome to the latest edition of the Wycombe Wanderers Show. I say hi especially to Mark and Simon from the Wycombe Wanderers Sport and Education Trust. A big hello to them. Oh, sorry. Try again.
That worked well, didn't it? Hello!
Hello from the background.
I was all ready to do a big hello and you didn't put me up, as it were.
No, they said they were looking forward to the show this evening.
Oh, that's very good.
And then I told them they'll be on it.
Yes, they will be on it.
A bit later on, find out about walking football, which has moved from outside in Lane End
to
inside at Wycombe Leisure Centre.
Oh, that sounds nice and warm and much cosier.
Yes, and features new romantic music as well.
Oh, really?
Find out why later on.
Okay. I wasn't expecting you to say that.
Also this week, we'll look back, as you'd expect, to a draw at Fleetwood, which at one point, well, several points, looked like it'd be a win.
Yeah, definitely.
And a defeat at home to Ipswich, again at one point, which looked like it might be a win.
At one point, we were top of the league. And then it all came crashing down.
And a bumper crowd of 6,943, of which you were one.
I was. But goodness me, it's a lot better, isn't it, to lose matches when the opposition have only brought about 50 people than when they brought 1,800, because, yeah, it was slightly sickening, particularly as the fourth goal went in, to see the whole town end, like, rocking around.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I prefer those games where, say, we play Morecambe or Accrington on a Tuesday night and they bring 20 fans, and, you know, if they win 1-0, well, you don't really notice that they're all celebrating.
It sounded a great atmosphere, though, that the noise could be heard from a mile and a half away.
It was very good, but, yes, it was just a bit disappointing that it was them doing the cheering rather than us.
Also, this evening we'll be hearing from Stuart Earp, who was the sports editor of the Bucks Free Press in the 70s.
Now, there is a reason for this, isn't there?
Oh, there's always a reason.
Of course, yes, because it is the FA Cup this weekend.
Absolutely, and he covered that momentous, other FA Cup ties as well, but that momentous third round in the 70s where he got to play Middlesbrough twice.
So it was a slightly spurious link, because we thought, well, Hartlepool and Middlesbrough, they're quite close to each other. So that's the reason for speaking to him tonight.
Yes. Oh, it's all planned, this show.
It is, yes. We don't just put it together in the last 5 minutes. Honest.
No. Have we done that? I'm trying to think. We have done that. No, we haven't really.
No, we're making it sound like we do, but we don't. But yes, of course. And so we have got the Hartlepool game as well to look forward to on Saturday.
Which you're also planning a trip to.
I am planning a trip to Hartlepool, yes, to the Victoria Ground.
Hartlepool in November.
You never know. I might see Jeff Stelling. I know, I think he's still busy at the minute, isn't he? I want to speak to you about that as well, actually.
Oh, right.
Because obviously we've had the news this week that Jeff Stelling is no longer doing, or won't be doing, Soccer Saturdays.
His last season.
And if you didn't know, Colin is one of the very few people in the whole country who professionally reads the football results.
Absolutely.
You do it for what used to be called the Independent Radio Network, but I don't think it's called that anymore, is it?
I think it can be.
Can it? Okay.
Yes, yeah.
And so, but I thought, well, you should apply for the job. You'd be great on Soccer Saturday.
Thank you very much.
Colin Besley.
It's quite high-paced and pressured, isn't it? I think. He makes it look very easy.
You know, that you're definitely the man for it.
I'm secretly after Alan Lambourne's job, though, who does the classifieds on Soccer Saturday.
Yes.
He wears a bow tie when he does it, you know.
You do it better than him.
Thank you.
Sorry, Alan Lambourne.
Yeah, but Jeff's been working for Sky for 30 years, and he's done Soccer Saturday for 27, I think it is.
That's a long time, actually, to be. And also, he doesn't look like he's done that. How he's one of those people that doesn't really age. And
no, he often, even when you see pictures of him from a long time ago. I shared a lift with him. I've shared a lift with him as well.
What like in a car or like an elevator lift?
No, an elevator. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
No, I've not been in a car with him.
I was going to say, oh wow, you've spent half an hour in the company of Jeff Stelling. What did he say? But
no,
it was only
couple of floors,
20 seconds. Anybody else of the Sky? So I know we should be talking about Wycombe Wanderers.
Yeah, we've diverted slightly, but
indeed, the first 6 minutes of the show we're talking about your career at Sky. Anyone else famous that you've shared a lift with?
Oh, possibly in the Sky building. You mean?
Anywhere, in general, in the world.
Oh, let me think. I should have prepared something, shouldn't I? Not that I can think of, to be honest. You know that expression about people you want to be stuck in a lift with. I shouldn't think I'm one of them for anybody.
Definitely not Cedo John Batty. No. Why did they always say that? I always wondered that. In that season where we did the programme feature, where all the players were asked, who do you not want to share a lift with? And the entire squad, other than Cedo when he did the feature, all said they didn't want to share a lift with. And I always wondered why. Why? What was it about Cedo that meant that you didn't want to share a lift with him?
But Gareth, you were saying, was on Sky last night as well, so often I'm on the floor above when he's on.
Are you? Oh, okay. Well, look, you could get in touch and see if, you could have a lift home with him.
Yes, drop me off.
He was very good last night.
He is very good, isn't he?
It was funny because he was commentating on the Bournemouth-Preston game. And obviously, he didn't say anything and he didn't reveal it really at all, but you could tell that, he's got a little soft spot for Preston, and so the fact that they won, he did look quite pleased.
Yes, so we have diverted slightly. But
yes.
No, it's all good. It all works, I think. Let's return to Fleetwood.
Indeed,
as many people would say.
And yeah, it was all looking so good. Well, I mean, obviously Fleetwood took the lead after 5 minutes. Then Brandon Hanlon equalised for us, and then it was all looking so good. Bayo and Vokesy putting us 3-1 up, and you were thinking, oh, great,
Because it was a different formation, wasn't it?
It was, yeah, different formation, different team. Obviously starting with Bayo as well, an interesting idea. But then Fleetwood fighting back with 2 goals in the 60th and 64th minute. And, again, I think probably we were all thinking, it's going to be another 4-3, it's going to be another 4-3. And, yeah, it wasn't in the end.
Because I think people remember Fleetwood, don't they, obviously, from the playoff semi-finals, but they're a very different team at the moment.
They are a very different team. I did wonder that, though, whether that almost might have been slightly said to them as they were going out, that, look, we slightly, last time we played Wycombe Wanderers, it didn't go quite so well. And yeah, well, a shame, but onwards and upwards, and a draw away at Fleetwood, considering some of the results they've had, as Gareth has been saying, is not a bad result.
Well, it was quite breezy up at Fleetwood as well.
It was rather, and he'd done quite a lot of shouting, I believe.
Yes, he was a little hoarse when he spoke to Phil after the game.
It's always a good point, away from home, and they've beat, they beat Rotherham and teams like that. They've had some decent results, but 3-1 up, you want to see the game out, and I think we were doing, and then Simon Grayson's made 3 substitutions and gone for it, and you've got to give him credit for that. He's put them on, and within 3 minutes before we could get to grips with things, I think they're back in the game. I don't care about formations. You've got to defend corners better than we did on that corner, and that's got them the momentum to get back in the game. And then, yeah, the third goal, obviously well taken by the lad, but we were a little bit stretched and we weren't getting to grips with what they'd done. Afterwards we did, and it was like basketball at the end. It could have gone either way, but gutted that we've lost 2 points, but pleased we've got a point. It's a weird feeling.
Fantastic game to watch, loads going on. I think we can hear it in your voice. It was a lot of shouting as well.
Absolutely, I've lost my voice a little bit today, so there looked like a couple of tired legs at the end, which is like to be with this pitch, really, really heavy. And like I say, Fleetwood absolutely gambled at the end and left themselves open. We looked open. It was a real basketball thing, and there's a big penalty shout for us in there, but they'll say there is for them as well. I thought Brandon Hanlon was a thorn in their side, really, really good, and I think he's coming, and obviously Vokesy and Akinfenwa, the 3 strikers all scored, so great for that and that formation. But like I said, didn't get to grips with what they did.
Good luck, mate.
Second half.
All the best.
And it's a draw, but a point away from home is always nice. So weird feeling, but yeah, it'll take it.
As a man from the northwest, you probably have a better understanding of the weather up here than me. We can look to have won the toss in the first half and switch the direction of play. Was that to do with the weather?
Yeah, you've always got to take these little advantages if you can, and Bale, when he's on the pitch, he's only been on the pitch for 60 minutes or 55 minutes like he was, and I think he wanted that wind advantage with him so we could get the balls up to him, and obviously paid dividends. I thought we were really good in the first half, really good, and then the goal in the second half, I thought it was time to put the game to bed. But like I say, fair play to Simon Grayson, put 3 subs on, opened the game up, went for it, and it paid off, and sometimes it does, and that's fair play to them. But like I say, good point for us.
You weren't putting any vocals down on Monday, were you?
No vocals, and if they were, they'd be more AC/DC or Joe Cocker than Jim Morrison. But now we'll have to rest the voice as well, yeah.
The gravelly voiced Gareth Ainsworth speaking after a trip to Fleetwood.
Goodness me.
A fisherman's friend, that's what he needs.
He really did, didn't he? I completely sympathise. It's like those times where you if you read the news on Wycombe Sound and you start feeling your voice going and there's nothing you can really do about it. You could tell that he was in that sort of like, oh no, my voice is going and I can't say anything.
Yeah, absolutely. Someone need to hand him a drink or something.
Yeah, they really did. Yeah, Phil, why weren't you giving him a fisherman's friend?
Oh yeah, or a hot cup of Bovril.
Indeed. We need to congratulate Phil as well, don't we?
Absolutely.
Because his Ringing the Blues podcast has been nominated for the 3rd year in a row.
It's very popular.
It's really good as well.
Absolutely.
I know that we do a podcast as well, because this show is a podcast, if you didn't know. But Phil has been nominated.
We do get to feature some of Phil's material from it.
Yeah,
so
we're very grateful for that as well. But yes, well done, Phil, for Ringing the Blues. I can't remember now quite what the award is. I'm just looking up desperately.
Desperately?
Desperately, yes.
You're looking up desperately?
No,
to spell it or something? Just looking up desperately. We will find desperately shortly.
Well, once again, it sounded like we're just throwing the show together tonight, and honestly, we're not.
No. So let's move on quickly then to Tuesday while you look up desperately. Ipswich, of course, their visitors. It was always billed as being a well-attended game.
By the way, it was the Club Podcast of the Year.
Brilliant! We can edit that bit.
At the Football Association Awards, but it's not one of those ones that you can vote for.
Oh, okay.
So it's just decided by, I don't know, podcast experts, whoever they might be.
Podbods.
Yes. Okay. To Tuesday night, and it was being billed as a big game, wasn't it? Because they were bringing lots, and we'd sold lots of tickets. And
it's a long way to come, isn't it, on Tuesday night for Ipswich?
Yeah, I was impressed with how many of them there were. I did think that they definitely have that slight Sunderland complex, don't they? Of, we're a big team, yes. And you think, well, again, as I thought when we were at Sunderland, actually, you've been in this division longer than us, so you're coming down here singing you're only here for the Ipswich. Well, we could be singing it the other way around.
Exactly.
Yes. And it all started so well, and it was, again, a bit like Gareth said about the Fleetwood game, where it was a bit like a basketball game. That's what I sat there thinking early on, was, goodness me, it is very much, we'll attack, you attack, and let's see what the score is at the end. And clearly, yes, we took the lead, and things were looking quite good, and then it all went slightly wrong.
Yes, the goals sort of kept coming, unfortunately.
They did, yeah, and I mean they were unfortunate goals. So
set pieces.
First
one
was a deflection. There was another one where we should have got a free kick, and particularly then in the last half an hour, 20 minutes, we really did sort of like batter the Ipswich goal. We just couldn't actually manage to put the ball in the net, and I do think, particularly, say we'd got one back.
We got one back.
So say we had got one back at 3-2.
I did.
We might have gone on for another famous 4-3, but it wasn't quite to be.
I think somebody might have laughed at that.
Yes.
You said we got one back.
Yes,
right?
okay, yes, I did. Yeah, well, it doesn't. If I'm the person who laughs at it, it doesn't really work.
No, good point.
I have to act as the straight man.
And you do it very well.
Yes. I'm the Ernie Wise to Eric Morecambe.
But it was again. So we talked about the sort of the change in formation for Fleetwood, but this was a bit different.
It was a bit different, yes, and it was interesting towards the end then when we had Bayo and Vokesy on again at the same time, and it did remind me that Gareth had said with regards to the Fleetwood game that he felt that yes, they went for it with 3 substitutions, and of course we did the same thing, but it didn't without quite getting the same result.
So yeah, and it was quite cold. We'll get Bob's thoughts
very chilly.
in a few moments' time. He's got a story about his battery operated trousers.
Not really. I've made it sound more interesting than it actually is.
Yeah, well, try and embellish it slightly then.
Okay.
So Gareth spoke to Phil once again after that, and talking about that 4th goal, which went in stoppage time.
I'm not counting the 4th goal really. I think David Stockdale sent someone up for the corner, so obviously you've got to count it. It's ended the game, but disappointing. Real disappointing. The timing of the goals against, I think, really worked in Ipswich's favour. They're a good side, a very good side, and but so are we. And I'm really proud of the boys. Big picture, so out of 7 games we've won 6 of them at home, and I think it's been great. I think a real positives for us. We're a little bit hopeful at times tonight, and the pitch maybe cut us out again, real frosty, and like I say, a couple of the balls forward. I think we could have been better, more quality, but effort-wise, all there. Fans, thank you. Sorry I couldn't produce the win that we all wanted, but we'll be back. Looking forward to the FA Cup Saturday now. Maybe a break against Pompey in the international call-ups. We'll see what happens there, but I think we've had a great first third of the season, and if we can do the second third the same as we've done, we're going to have a right chance of promotion this year.
That first 20-25 minutes, Wycombe really took it to Ipswich, didn't they?
Yeah, and first 10 minutes of the second half as well, Phil. I thought we changed slightly at half time just to try and contend with some of their rotation, and it worked. They were kicking out play, and like I say, the timing of the goal kills us really. It's the leg up that we gave them. They've scored from 2 of our set pieces, going forward, and they were countering on us. We had chances. The keeper's made some fantastic saves. That's what he's there for. But no, we'll be back, and we've got to go up Pultman Road. Obviously, that's going to be a big occasion for us. But I've got plenty of games left in this league now to put more points on the board, and that's what I intend to do.
Ipswich's first goal seemed to turn the game. David Stockdale looked disappointed with himself as well. Did you feel that really turned the tide?
No, I didn't know. It was their first shot on target, after 30 minutes or something. So it was it was tough to take. Stocko's almost pulled off a great save, but no, I think Stocko knows that he's where he is. He's a brilliant keeper. He's the top 2 divisions when he's on form without a shadow of a doubt, and he's a great number 1. So yeah, we've seen some brilliant saves, some brilliant goals, some brilliant action so far this season. Tonight didn't quite get to the level that we have been playing at, but we've got to make sure that we're back on it next game and the games after that. Like I say, if we can produce another third like we've just done, we're going to be well within a shout of automatics, playoffs, whatever. But Ipswich will be there without a doubt. They're a good side. It's taken them a while to click, and they've spent a lot of money getting a good squad together. Rightly so. They want to get back in the Championship. They'll have a chance as well.
David Wheeler was doing great things in the air until the left back went off injured, and they brought on a sort of gargantuan left back as a substitute, and that went against Wycombe a little bit as well, didn't it?
Listen, you've got to find ways then to break things down, and I thought we did really well. I think there was maybe a foul in the build up to their goal as well, which was disappointing that we didn't get. I thought Brandon Hanlon was a real thorn in the side of Ipswich all night. He's coming on strength to strength, but like I say, a little bit hopeful on things. Didn't go our way. Not going to complain. We've been well and truly beaten today. Well done, Ipswich. We're going to the next one.
Back on the coach, FA Cup Saturday, just a short trip up to Hartlepool. Naming a strong side for that one?
Yeah, FA Cup means a lot to me. One or two of my boys are carrying knocks though in the team tonight, and maybe it might be the right thing to keep them fit for the league. We've got some young development players who would relish a chance in the FA Cup, but I will not weaken the side to belittle the competition. It will be done for the right reasons, and that'll be medical reasons. Otherwise we'll be going up there to try and get him round to.
Some interesting things to pick up on from what Gareth said there, which we'll talk about a bit later on in the programme, especially about Hartlepool and of course the forthcoming game against Portsmouth, or not.
Indeed, yes, or not. That was interesting.
Go on then, tell us about your battery operated trousers.
Sorry, hang on. I was going to say the decision to not play that Ipswich game now as well does look like possibly a mistake, but you can't tell these things at the time, can you?
No, so it was cold on Tuesday.
It was very cold on Tuesday, yes, and so having built up the battery operated trousers, and goodness me, if ever a night they were needed, it was Tuesday night. Of course, I did wear them, but I forgot to take the battery bit with me.
Oh.
So I had battery-operated trousers, but no battery, which sounds a bit like a Wallace and Gromit type.
It does, like the wrong trousers.
Indeed, absolutely. Yes, if you saw me marching down Hillbottom Road, then you'll know why.
Still to come, we'll speak to members of the Wycombe Wanderers Sport and Education Trust, and as I say, we'll preview Hartlepool and look ahead to potentially Portsmouth as well. Plus,
maybe not.
We'll fill you in on how Wycombe Wanderers women are doing as well.
Online, on Radio Player, and on 106.6 FM. This is Wycombe Sound.
Second part of the Wycombe Wanderers show. Here's Bob.
Hello. Again, you had my mic up that time. Yes, on a Tuesday night. Oh dear, I'm still thawing out now, actually.
Because November's quite a busy run of fixtures, isn't it? I think it could be some more cold nights this Tuesday against Burton.
Yeah, I mean, this Tuesday against Burton, goodness me, we hyped up the Ipswich game saying that possibly there'd be 7,000. I wonder whether or not we'll be able to get 700 in for the dead rubber, as it's called, against Burton Albion. It will be interesting. But yeah, the thing I was going to say about the cold was as well, Gareth just commenting about, the fact that, yes, the pitch did appear to be getting frozen during the game. And you could see, after about 9 o'clock, the pitch actually began to look, I wouldn't say white, that's a slight exaggeration, but it definitely began to look, a slightly different colour to normal. And you did think, definitely we do have the coldest ground in the league.
It's like a microclimate, isn't it?
Don't care what any northern person says. You can keep your Barnses and your Oakwells. We have the coldest ground.
You heard it here first. It's official. So often we get to speak to former players. Thank you, of course, as always, to the Wycombe Wanderers Ex-Players Association. But someone who is a member is Stuart Earp, who in the 70s was the sports editor at the Bucks Free Press, and of course timed to coincide with the FA Cup first round proper, I think you have to call it, don't you?
It is, yes.
This weekend, some brilliant FA Cup memories from the 70s, and almost a sort of a unique time to be covering the club, because obviously I guess following a team from a journalism perspective very different to how it is nowadays.
Very, very different, I would imagine.
So here's Stuart's story.
My editor was a lovely old boy called Arthur Church, who some of your listeners might remember, because he was a regular up at Wanderers every Saturday and in midweek. and he encouraged me in my career. Lovely man was Arthur. I joined the Free Press in 1969, and I started covering Wycombe. I started as a general reporter, trainee reporter, covering craft fairs and parish councils and really boring things. Then I got a chance to go on to sport, and jumped at it, and joined the sports desk after a couple of years, and became sports editor in 71.
So what was it like actually covering the club? Because I guess nowadays you see, all sorts of player interviews, and it's all very kind of instant, isn't it? But I guess in those days it was a bit different.
It certainly was, yes. For a start, I wrote incredibly long reports that were extremely boring, covering every sort of cough and spit of what happened in the game. And there were very few interviews afterwards, actually. Nowadays, as you say, it's all about quotes and, finding somebody to say something controversial. But in those days, you just made your notes during the game, went home and wrote it up, after a couple of pints after the match in the clubhouse.
And Brian Lee was the manager. What was he like to sort of to get information from?
Brian was pretty good, actually. He was very patient with me because I was, in my early 20s, very naive and green. But Brian was a great tutor. You've got to remember that he was running Bisham Abbey National Sports Centre at the time. He's a very busy man, as well as, covering Wycombe Wanderers and making them probably the best non-league side in the country in the 70s, or one of the best. So Brian, he was great to work with, to be honest, and he was very good to me, and I will always be grateful for that.
And we've got the first round of the FA Cup coming up, and I know a particularly memorable tie was when obviously Wycombe got to the third round for the first time in their history, and a really interesting link with JDT, of course, from the Ex-Players Association. Yeah,
I didn't work with John. He's a bit older than me. He won't like me for saying that. But I really met him when I joined the Ex-Players Association and got to know him then. But he followed a similar path to me, only he went further up north, I think, to a bigger paper up there. But lovely man, John, and he's always good company, and himself and Alan do a fantastic job for the Ex-Players Association. And their dues that they put on, their dinners and quizzes and things, are really first class. So full of admiration for them.
So he was a sports editor up in Middlesbrough at the time when Wycombe were playing the club?
I think that's right, yeah. And that was quite an occasion. But I've been doing a little bit of research, Colin, on the 70s. And it was a phenomenal time to be covering Wanderers. They won the Isthmian League title in 70, 71, 72, 73. And they had fantastic FA Cup runs in those 70s. For example, in 73 they beat Newport County, who were a league club then, 3-1, in front of 7,000, before going out to Peterborough, 3-1 at home. And Peter were managed by Noel Campwell, who your older listeners will remember as a Man United player. He was their manager. I remember speaking to him beforehand when I was doing my preview, and I'd heard a rumour that they were training on a slope in Peterborough to try and get used to Lokes Park. And I asked him rather naively, Mr. Campbell, do you think that'll help? And he said, well, we wouldn't be doing that otherwise, would we? And rather put me in my place. But in 74, of course, was the big one, when they beat Bournemouth after a replay, and then on to Middlesbrough. And then after that, there were games against Cardiff and Reading in 76. So throughout the 70s, it was a fantastic time to be covering the club, and they were memorable cup ties, they really were.
So as a journalist, did you actually kind of notice, if you like, the progress the team was making?
That's a good question. I just knew I was lucky to be covering a really special side. Non-league was quite a contrast. You'd go to places like Clapton and Walthamstow, and yet Wycombe was always a decent surface, despite the slope, which people always made a big thing of. But I suppose we did see them progress, and when sort of certain players came in, the sort of Kenny Swains of this world, and the youngsters, I could see, they were definitely improving. And of course, this is under Brian and John Reardon. They had some great players in those days and a lot of good characters.
It must have felt really special as well, as I say, to have reached the FA Cup for the first time, and the third round for the first time in their history, and to be playing a team like Middlesbrough, who were going so well at the time as well.
They were indeed. They were top of the old First Division. Jack Charlton, as you know, was the manager, and it's a bit like, playing somebody like Liverpool today or Man City. They really were streets ahead of ahead really. They were certainly top of the table, and a strong side. Graham Souness was in it. Stuart Bone, Willie Madron. Geordie Armstrong up front, who got the goal in the replay that put them out eventually, put Wycombe out. But no, they were a top side. But on the other hand, Wycombe were a top amateur side, so, it's a good clash, really.
And such a great achievement to get them to a replay as well.
Yeah, it was, and they could have won it, actually. Alan Phillips will remember his header that went just the wrong side of the post of an upright, and that was the closest they came at Lokes Park. But it was a great day because the big match cameras were there for TV, Brian Moore and that lot. So I was busy, and the press box was absolutely rammed with national journalists from national newspapers as well. Jeff Powell from the Daily Mail came down. I remember him buying a bottle of champagne for us local lads in the bar afterwards. I think he was probably showing off a bit, but we were quite impressed.
It's really nice to get that sort of behind-the-scenes sort of news, isn't it? Because obviously as supporters, you just literally read the report and don't get to know kind of what happens necessarily in the press box. No, it's its own little world, really. It was an open-air press box, unlike today's ones that are all covered and got all the gizmos and plugs for your computer and stuff. So it was pretty early, and if you were doing what we used to call a runner for the national newspapers, probably Evening Standard in those days, you'd be typing your report or writing your report probably in longhand actually, and then handing it to a runner who'd go to the nearest telephone box and phone it over to the Standard's copy takers in London. So it was a bit different from today's push-button computers and everything being instant. I was going to say, it's fascinating to hear that as well, what feels like such a comparatively short time ago.
Well, you're right, yeah, well, we're talking about 20, 30 years, and it's changed out of all recognition, really. Let's have newspapers, of course, which is sadly going out of fashion a bit. There seems to be the internet's taking over, and that's what everybody wants. I know my last paper, the Oxford Mail, when I was there, we had, at its peak, we had 8 members on the sports desk. And now there's one, and he only does it part-time and does general news as well. So it's pretty dire, really. It's very sad to see the demise of newspapers, but it's the way people get their information now, isn't it? Via the internet and the telephones, and it's just the way it's changed. But I feel lucky, as I do, covering Wycombe during the 70s, to have experienced newspapers at that time as well.
I was going to say, it must be a great thing to sort of reflect on and look back on.
Yeah, it is. When I first started newspapers, there was a hot metal era, where you had a line of type operators who were putting every line of type in and using hot metal, and then you had compositors who were really skilled guys. This was at the factory at Gom Road, when they used to have their own printing press, and they were so skillful, these chaps could get it all ready in next to no time. But that's all gone now, of course, because it's all computerised.
No, definitely. And are there any other sort of games or occasions that really stand out from your time covering the club?
Yeah, as I say, I'm jotting down a few things. At the end of a couple of seasons, we used to go on tour, and I was really lucky because Arthur Church was a bit of a fan. He'd let me go with Wycombe on tour. And we went to Italy twice, I seem to remember, Riccione and... Udinese, I know. Wycombe played Udinese, who are now a top Italian club, Serie A club. They played them in the Anglo-Italian tournament, and they more than held their own in that, actually. But socially, a tour was a pretty good occasion, because in Italy you're treated like royalty out there, and plenty of lovely food and wine, and the committee were really good to me. We'd have some gin and tonic sessions generally before a meal in one of the bedrooms, and I remember I've got a lovely picture at home of me, Brian Lee, Jerry Cox, Reg Williams, John Goldsworthy, who was the old secretary, lovely chap Goldie, we were all drinking gin and tonic in somebody's bedroom and probably getting a little bit tipsy before we went down for some dinner. But happy days they were, Colin.
No, definitely. It must have been also sort of exclusive as well, because you were the one covering the club and being the one that fans would read each week.
Yeah, I used to sort of telephone my reports back to my trusty Lieutenant Michael Knox at the office, and it'd be a sort of picture byline of me on the phone, and I'd relate really boring stuff about what we have for supper, roast beef or something, but also obviously reporting on the game. But I felt I was lucky because they and I think the players trusted me really. As I say, we didn't go in for quotes in those days, and there was very little that was controversial. Because Wycombe was such a good side, and because Brian Lee got the right sort of players and the right sort of men there, that was the key thing, I think, to Brian's success. He knew what he wanted. He wanted decent, honest people, and not players who were there to make an extra fiver in their boot. It was that sort of ethos, I think, that got through and why contributed a lot to their success.
And it must have felt really nice to be that close to the team as well.
Yeah, it was, yeah. Yeah, I remember going in the sea and chucking a tennis ball around with a couple of players, just having a bit of fun that way. And you did get to know them a bit. A couple of other things I remember. Going with John Maskell, who, as you know, is a bit of a legend at the club and a lovely bloke too. Mask, I remember going and having a look at the ground where we were playing a fixture that evening. Mask said, come with me, we'll have a walk around the penalty box at each end. And I thought, well, that's a bit strange thing to do. But as we walked round, he spotted something, and it was a big bolt off a lawnmower. And he said, that's what I'm looking for, something like that. If I'm diving on that, that's going to do me a lot of damage. So that was something that was quite interesting. And another time, I remember on another tour, I was watching Steve Perrin take penalties, and there was nobody in goal. So I said, I said, do you want me to stand there? And obviously I won't save money, I should think, Steve, but, at least you've got a target to aim either side of. And he whacked this ball and it hit the upright, cannoned off it, and caught me right in the face. So that was the last time I did that.
So, must have seemed such a good idea at the time.
It did, quite.
But as you say, it must have felt such a special period in the club's history, and to be that close and part of it as well. It
was very special, yeah. And I appreciated it when I left Wycombe and moved up to Oxford, because I was covering Oxford City then for a while, including the Bobby Moore era, which was quite interesting. But they showed me what was the wrong way to do it, because they were sponsored by a local newspaper called the Oxford Journal in those days, and their chairman decided to bring in Bobby Moore as manager. And dear Bobby, he was a great bloke, but he didn't have a lot of non-league experience. And they had plenty of money, they tried to sort of buy success by bringing in ex-pros like Phil Bill of Spurs, Les Parodi, Harry Redknapp was there for a while, it was... and it didn't work, to be honest. They never achieved much. But we had some quite interesting times. As I say, they like to spend their money. I remember having lunch at the Dorchester once on the way to an away game, which seemed very odd at the time.
No, definitely. It's a bit different to what you'd be used to.
Well, quite, yeah.
It must have been so interesting for you as well to see the club progress, going from non-league to league, and obviously, ultimately, more recently, into the Championship as well.
Oh, it's been fantastic. And, the season they had in League One was just amazing, really. And they started so poorly, didn't they? And then it all picked up, and all credit to Gareth Ainsworth, I think is a superb manager, and they've done really well to hang on to him. And please carry on, Gareth, because you're doing a fantastic job.
And really nice the role of the Ex-Players Association as well, to bring, obviously, players from the era that you sort of covered and worked alongside, but also from different generations too.
Yes, indeed, yeah. And I think that's really important too, and it's all down to Hutch and John Taylor. They, as I mentioned earlier, they do this brilliant job, and they're so good at it. It's a really good evening. But it's not just players from my era. It's the old Hamler Cup final team. There's not many left now, and I'm sorry to hear that Len Newell is not too good at the moment. But I think it's and they enjoy mixing with people from my era as well, and even the younger players, the ones from the sort of Steve Brown era and Martin O'Neill's fantastic side,
And something really nice that players who played together in like 30, 20, 40, even longer years ago are still in touch now and still have that shared camaraderie and that experience.
That's right, and I think this gives them the opportunity, because I've known, since I've stopped working, that getting back together with your old pals and things isn't easy these days, especially with COVID around. And it's easy just to sort of sit at home and not want to get out and meet people again, but because of the association, we're able to meet up with, every now and then with some really good old mates. And Paul Birdseye's always been a bit of a star to me, and his lovely wife. They were always good to me. Howard Kennedy, dear Howard, no longer with us, unfortunately. He always used to come at me after a game and said, do you want a quote? Do you want a quote? Do you want a quote? And I never took him up on it. I think it had been too controversial anyway, to be honest. But who else from that era? Oh, the Bodger, of course, Tony Horseman, Keith Sell, Gary Hand. I discovered at one of the dinners that Gary plays in a blues band, which I like the blues, and it was interesting to chat to him. He's the bass guitarist in the group. I'd like to get him to see him one day. Keith Mead, another great character and very experienced. Alan Phillips. They were in the side that played Middlesbrough.
You must have realised, if that's the right word, what made the club so special, especially at that time.
Yes, yeah. It was a happy club. I suppose the key to that was because they were so successful. They had a brilliant manager. They had some of the best players, the right men, as I mentioned earlier, and it was a recipe for success. And that's why they won all these titles and had these fantastic cup matches. And it was a fantastic time being at the club. I thoroughly enjoyed it and wouldn't have missed it for the world.
Really interesting chatting to Stuart. He had some fantastic memories, and also really interesting, obviously, contrasting how life in the press box has changed, ringing through your report and then going for a few pints afterwards. It all sounds very convivial.
Yeah, it's definitely not like that now. It's hanging about sort of like desperately doing whatever you're trying to do. I suppose, which I suppose is a similar thing in that you've still got the deadlines and whatever. But no, you definitely don't notice anybody if they're on their phone. It's because they're then trying to send through a large amount of audio and hoping that actually the Wi-Fi or that they've got signal, which of course used to be a problem at Adams Park, but isn't anymore, which is really, really great. But yeah, interesting to hear the just the differences as well.
I think especially it's so easy to take for granted, isn't it? If you read a match report, say even on a website nowadays, you don't kind of think, I wonder what's gone into putting that together.
No, that's so true, and particularly because there are two different types of report, aren't there? There's sort of like the very, very generic report that you get where it just sort of says things
describes
like,
what happened.
Yeah, exactly. Like corner for Wycombe taken by Jacobson, and that's it. And and then you don't get any other information, so you assume that nothing's happened. And then you obviously get the much better reports,
really
analytical,
exactly,
yeah, that give you the meat on the bones, as it were. And yeah, I think we all know which ones we prefer. Those other reports I think of as being a bit like sort of like Football Manager or something. It's just as if you're just getting the Football Manager
like
game. I mean, not a Football
literally.
Manager. Yes, yeah, you're just getting a text commentary.
Fantastic. Final part of the Wycombe Wanderers Show on the way. We'll find out about walking football. You said you've played walking football. I have
played walking football once, just before lockdown.
I've played football very slowly, but that's not the same thing.
Online, on Radio Player, and on 106.6 FM. This is Wycombe Sound.
Still to come on tonight's Wycombe Wanderers Show, we will be previewing the trip to Hartlepool, discussing whether or not we should play Portsmouth, and also talking about how Wycombe Wanderers women got on at the weekend.
I like the idea of previewing the trip to Hartlepool. That just looks ahead to any possible obstacles that you'll come across on the way.
Right, indeed. Well, after last week's sort of like show that was slightly sponsored by the Lancashire Tourist Board, and you've probably already realised that the Hartlepool Tourist Board haven't got in touch because I haven't been talking about fish and chip shops. But maybe I'll have a quick look through.
I was going to say, stay tuned to next week's show where recommendations will be afoot, I imagine.
Indeed, yes.
We could do that regularly. Bob's Guide to Away Grounds.
I think we should. Yes. I think that will be a new feature. Bob's Guide to Away Grounds, and also
where to park.
Who Colin has been in a lift with. New features to come on the Wycombe Wanderers Show.
Look out for that. If you missed this morning's mid-morning, then you won't have heard us chatting to Wycombe Wanderers Sport and Education Trust as they moved their...
this was quite exciting because you did this like live. This was,
literally.
Yeah. Yes.
As it was happening. There was a session on
around, or not around you, but
no.
You were chatting to them.
I was here, they were there. But yes, it moved from Lane End outside to
Brr.
Yeah, exactly, to the indoor comforts of Wycombe Leisure Centre, and we caught up with Mark Fawkes, as in Guy, topical.
They must get that all the time.
Also, of course, also Steve, who's head of health at the Wycombe Wanderers Sport and Education Trust, and also Ros from Age UK, who are part of the party as well.
Excellent.
We've been doing it for a number of weeks now, as you said, down at Lane End. It was started off very nice in the summer. We had lots of sun, lots of people kind of running around. It was really nice. And then as the winter started to kind of roll in, we've kind of seen some declining numbers. So we've been really lucky to be able to get a space here down at Wycombe Leisure Centre, just to bring it inside. And our numbers are great today. We just had kick-off. Everyone's looking on good form. Everyone sort of looks hurt from the 4-1 defeat the other night. So, we're looking to put that right here today down at Wycombe Leisure Centre.
Absolutely. Hopefully many goals can be scored. Is walking football, it sounds obvious, but it's a question, but is walking football very different to normal, in inverted commas, football?
That's right, yeah. I mean, the hardest thing is probably not to run. It sounds strange, but even if you miscontrol it, you try and take a few steps of running, and then you find the whistle blowing, and then you've given away a free kick to the other team. So that's not ideal. But yeah, other than that, and above head height as well, the ball can't go above head height. But other than that, the rules are the same, and it's a good game.
And Simon, must be so many health benefits to people who perhaps previously have been inactive, or who perhaps played football a long time ago and perhaps aren't really up to the pace of the full game.
Yeah, I think what we're beginning to find as well is that there's an awful lot of participants that we've got coming down that have probably not played football in quite a few years. Probably stopped playing grassroots football when they were kind of 30, 35 and kind of thought that they're pretty much come to the end of their sort of playing career. But it's great to see, and it's so good to see that there are some people now, and who would have thought that walking football would have, given those individuals an opportunity to get back leading an active life through football. So it's amazing to see, and it's great to see. And I think this morning we've got a guy that's come down, and he's 82. Ross, 83. He's 83. He, again, I was just speaking to him earlier. He stopped playing when he was about 40, 45. He's now the age of 83, and he's going to come down and looking like he's going to come and join in our walking football sessions. So, for those individuals that have retired, that are a little bit isolated, that, it's the practicalities as well of just keep moving and keeping active. So it's so good to see, individuals that are over the age of 50 that might have a long-term health condition. And it's just increasing their active lifestyle, which is so good to see.
And Ros, this must be something you're so pleased to support as well, because obviously we're talking about the health benefits, but also, sort of a chance for older people to be able to interact with others as well.
Absolutely, yes. I mean, what we're trying to do is to alleviate the loneliness that people feel in their later years, and anything that we can do now to help them stay fit and healthy, it means that they're going to be able to maintain greater independence in their later life and keep active and socialising. And even just having this in the diary as a weekly event is such a great thing for people, especially post-COVID, where people were really nervous about socialising and actually, thought they'd lost the skills to actually go out and talk to people. And we're finding that actually that's not the case. They come out and they've made great friends and they really enjoy it and look forward to it.
Because Simon, I was going to say, it sounds like a fine balance between something that's quite relaxed, but also I can imagine could be quite competitive as well.
It really can. I mean, I've worked in football for a number of years, and I've not seen a provision of football explode so quickly as what walking football has. And, it was born out of a recreational form of the game. But then what's kind of developed and what's happened is the progression of walking football. It's got very competitive. So within a very short space of time, you've got the social aspect and the competitive element as well. And through that competitive element, we've got the Thames Valley Walking Football League played from Bisham Abbey that play monthly fixtures. But I think from us and linking in with Age UK and with Ross, it's very much around just keeping individuals kind of socially connected with one another, supporting their mental health. We have playlists, so we bring a speaker down every week. So last week, believe it or not, we had some drum and bass. The week before that, we had some house music. And this week, I think we've got some new romantic, early 80s music. But, music connects people. We're just trying to do the best we can to make it a fun and engaging session for them.
Drum and bass music, fantastic. I imagine that would quicken the pace as well of the football too. Power ballads, that's what you want.
Yeah.
And Ros, obviously we sort of touched on as well, but there are obviously so many benefits attached to it, and so nice for people to have this in their diaries to kind of look forward to as well.
Definitely. As I say, I think that's a really important aspect of this is the socialisation, because not only do they come out for the football, but we normally hang about afterwards and sit down with a hot drink. And whereas in the early days, we might find it difficult to sustain the conversation for more than, 15 minutes or something. Now we find that after the football, we're sat chatting to each other for about an hour. So I think people really have made new friends and just find that the social aspect of it is really helpful as well.
If you're not careful, they'll be coming for the music as well.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
We the live stream down in there, really. We do. That'll be how worse.
People have discovered drum and bass through walking football. It's fantastic. And Simon, I guess many as well will have the kind of common link of the football as well, because Mark sort of joked that people have been down after the defeat on Tuesday night, but I'm sure many will be talking about games that perhaps they watched from years gone by, as well as how the current team are doing.
Yeah, I mean, it's just that social interaction, and it is nice that there is a little bit of camaraderie. But again, it's one of those things where the power of sport kind of like brings individuals together, and it is quite nice that through the club and through the Sport and Educational Trust that we're delivering these provisions locally, and making positive impacts.
And so great as well, as we touched on with Royals, kind of socially, that people have got these things to go to as well, because I think many people, especially if you get to sort of retirement age, you probably think, what can I do now?
Well, that's definitely the case, yeah. And one of the things that people have said is we've got a lot of the people are recently retired and found that they were not quite sure, especially with all the lockdown situation, that they weren't sure how they were keeping active and realised that they were getting sluggish. And so this outlet for a bit of activity, and a quote from one of our participants was that it's made me feel young again. And, I feel like that's a massive result, really, if we manage to do that. So,
yeah, Simon, I was going to ask, actually, you must get loads of great feedback from people that do take part.
Yeah, there is. There's kind of, there's a group that turn up week in, week out. But the other thing I was going to say as well, before I forget, if anybody's interested to get involved, then if they Google walking football Wycombe, or if they Google just play walking football, all they have to do is put the postcode in to find out where the sessions are running. But also they can go on our website as well. So they can go onto the Wycombe Wanderers Sport and Educational Trust website, go to health, and then under health, then we've got the booking system in place for them. But yeah, the feedback is always good, and it's not from a coaching perspective, but managing the sessions as well. You get to know these individuals, and it's such a nice, friendly, welcoming group of individuals that we've got. And it's just so good to see, and the fact that they're committed now pretty much week in, week out, and it's so good to see.
And really rewarding to see their progress, I imagine, as well, just with sort of fitness or someone's confidence growing as well, because I guess obviously it's not about their not just their physical health, but mental as well.
We've got some talent in the group, so there might be some scoutings that might go on down there as well.
Yeah.
No, definitely. You must be so proud of the initiative and the way it's growing in popularity and just the sort of bringing people together element of it as well.
Definitely, yeah. And you're right to mention the mental health aspects. I think that's a massive effect from getting involved in this project.
And I guess as well, it's so convenient because you don't sort of need loads of equipment or kit. You can just turn up, I assume, in your usual, either kit or sort of tracksuit or just something quite relaxing.
There's some very casual attire that is worn at these sessions. We're flexible.
Yeah.
I think the important thing is that we've got a nice, friendly, welcome, warm environment. Warm now we've come indoors as well,
yes,
but we just want to support individuals, through mental and physical health, really. So it's. And
if they come in their disco gear, that's fine.
Absolutely.
And the fun thing about moving it back inside into a sports hall is you forget how good that squeak of trainer on sports hall floor is.
No, definitely.
I've been outside on the 3G for months, and you forget how good that sound is.
Yeah.
So will you just be indoors for the winter and then back out again, or is this a sort of permanent move now?
We're indoors, so we're at the Wycombe Leisure Centre now until the 5th of February?
Something like that.
I think 5th of February.
And then we'll reconsider, I guess.
Yeah.
Valentine's Day back outside. Beautiful.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. See what people want to do, really.
That's when you want the power balance, I think, for Valentine's.
That's when, absolutely. Yeah. Can you play football to Barry White? I'm not sure. We'll try it. We'll see if I'll let you know.
Very slowly, I imagine.
Yeah.
I was going to make a pun about scoring, but I don't think I should. Just remind us where people can find out more if they do want to take part in the sessions, as I say.
That's right. So all the information is on our website, www.sct.co.uk, Wycombe Wanderers Sports and Education Trust. As Simon said earlier, if you go to the health banner at the side, all the information you need is in there, or our phone number 01494 455 736.
Great to chat to Mark and Ros and Simon, although not in that order. And if you check on the Wycombe Wanderers Sport and Education Trust Facebook page, you can see actual photos of that actual interview in progress.
That was brilliant, because it sounded more like a brainstorming session where you were giving them all of these suggestions of things that they could do in the future.
Absolutely.
Such as playing Barry White and
power ballads
and the drum and bass.
Imagine turning up to a walking football session and what's that? That's drum and bass, that is.
Oh, I'm really into that now. Previously I was just into Andy Williams, but now I really like Stormzy.
Previously just thought Stormzy was some bad weather.
Yes. No, that was great. I enjoyed that. And it is really good. So I've only done it once. I went along to a session before lockdown, like the week before lockdown started, and I really enjoyed it and thought, oh yes, I must get into this. And then of course the session stopped.
Because as Mark mentioned,
it was great.
I imagine the challenge is really not walking.
That was exactly it. Definitely. In fact, I got told that I was walking a bit slow some of the time. But yeah, you do find that, particularly say if the ball's going out for a throw-in or something like that, then of course you start running towards it, and then you think, oh no, I'm not allowed to do that. And also the ball isn't allowed to go above head height. Or actually, I think we were playing it crossbar height, because obviously there's people like me who are like 6'6", and then there's other people who are a bit smaller. But it was really good, and you get a really good workout, and I definitely recommend it.
So many benefits, as you mentioned. There's the physical, the mental, and also the social aspects as well.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that was really nice. That then they were saying that, actually at the end, then you end up hanging about for another hour chatting. I thought that was really sweet.
Discussing drum and bass.
Yeah, indeed. Yes, other musical genres.
Finding out what drum and bass is, I think.
Being down with the kids.
Yeah, Neo-Romantics this week.
Oh, really? Yes, yeah.
And maybe power ballads, that'll be considered.
I think your power ballads is a good idea. Yeah, I can see them being more into that.
Or you could just have sort of football type songs, couldn't you? Like England in Water and things like that.
Yeah.
Life of Riley, that'd be a good one.
Oh yeah.
Although it might be a bit quick, you might be tempted to run.
No, I think that would work.
I
think you should go and be their DJ. Actually, you'd be very good.
I could be the announcer, ground announcer.
Yes.
I don't know what I'd say. There wouldn't be too much to announce, I don't think.
I was surprised that, so our grand announcer this week, he did say at some point, it's almost time for the show to begin, which I thought was a really interesting way of
Take your
phrasing it.
seats.
And for a second I felt like we were in the West End. I don't think I've ever heard a football announcer describe a match as the show before.
No, it's all about the experience.
All about the show is about to begin. I quite liked that.
Oh, excellent. We could try and incorporate.
And also, I liked the fact as well that at half time he then said, make sure you come back for the second half, which, actually you possibly would have thought that maybe at half time if we'd been 4-1 down, it would have made sense. But it was just a slightly funny, make sure you come back for the second half. Oh, no, I'm just going to wander down Hillbottom Road and see if any of the industrial places are open.
Take advantage of the facilities in the car park.
Yes, indeed.
That sort of thing.
You're going to ask about Wycombe Wanderers ladies, aren't you?
Wycombe Wanderers women, as we should know.
Sorry. Wycombe Wanderers women.
Do you still call them linesmen and not referees?
I do still call them linesmen, definitely. Yes, always. In the same way that it will always be the League Cup, and grounds will always be.
And GIF and not SIF.
It was always Adams Park and never the Causeway Stadium.
Oh yeah.
Wycombe Wanderers women. I know that you should now call them that, and
yes.
I do try.
I do.
I do. Had a disappointing result, but against the good team, they were playing Moneyfield.
Oh
so
yes,
they were doing very well.
Yeah,
exactly. They are one of the top teams. So they went down 5-0 on Sunday. They play Ascot United away this coming Sunday in a 2:00 kickoff at the Ascot United Racecourse ground, which is quite an interesting ground if you've ever been there, because it is right near the actual Ascot Racecourse, and you can actually see the racecourse sort of like in the distance. So if you are at a loose end on Sunday, then go along and support the ladies.
And you're going to Hartlepool on Saturday to see the men's team, a much changed perhaps men's team.
Yes, possibly. I mean, it's interesting. Gareth sounds like he's slightly sort of hedging his bets, not wanting to say yes, it's going to definitely be a changed team because he respects the competition, etc., etc. But it does sound like, we are going to see a few of the fringe players maybe making an appearance. But I think that is only because, we've obviously had quite a busy schedule of late. And clearly we played, we didn't actually take advantage of the international break. We played that game against Gillingham. So I think it's fair enough. It's okay, Gareth. We understand. We understand what the team's trying to do. And going all the way back to the Manchester City game and remembering things that Pete Couhig said about that that actually, it's not about the cups this year, it's about the league. So whatever the result at the Victoria Ground on Saturday, you see, that's another one. I'm sure it's not called that anymore, but to me, it will always be the Victoria Ground. Then, yeah, definitely that, I think that's absolutely fine. And I would say as well, I've seen a few things on social media since Tuesday which have really depressed me. Fans just saying really silly things about, what was Gareth doing, and we were tactically inept and all of that. And you just think, oh, goodness, can we just have a reality check? Okay, we're not going to win every game. Yes, it was a bit of a shock to lose 4-1 at home to Ipswich, but Ipswich are clearly in a false position. They're definitely a team that are very much on the up, and yet we can't win every game. We're not Man City, we're not Chelsea. Just live with it. I also liked a comment that a guy put on Facebook called Ian Bartholomew. Hello, Ian, if you're listening. Where he revealed last night, he said, stayed a bit late in the office tonight, packing things up. Saw a man walking down the corridor towards me. Thought he looks familiar. Then it clicked. It was Gareth Ainsworth. Had a chat, shook his hand. He apologised for the game last night. I told him not to worry about it. Every team has good games and bad games. Anyway, he's a lovely guy. Didn't seem put out by me wanting to have a chat.
Which
Isn't
office
that nice?
was that?
I have no idea. And that's exactly what I thought. Having read that, it's like, you have to tell us a bit more. How come Gareth Ainsworth was just walking down the corridor in your office? Whereabouts was this? But anyway, just goes to show what a lovely guy Gareth is.
No, definitely. So by the time we speak to you next week, we'll have had the FA Cup first round proper tie at Hartlepool. We'll have had another cup game as well at home.
And let's see,
chilly as well, won't it?
Let's see how many people we can get to that game against Burton Albion on Tuesday. Well, it will be amazing if we manage to get 1,000. So if you are at a loose end on Tuesday, and bear in mind as well, it starts at 7 o'clock, not 7:45. Yes. So even more reason to make it difficult for people to get there. But yeah, I'm going to be there with my battery-operated trousers, hopefully with a battery. It would be nice if I wasn't the only one.
If not, a mains adapter.
Yeah, I'll have a chat to the club and see what they can do.
Just plug you in.
Thank you very much for listening to the Wycombe Wanderers Show. We are available as a podcast as well. And up the wick, as Pete Kuhig says.